Happy Monday again, everybody. It's Mr. Ben here, and if you've made it to this point, that means you found your work for today. We're in our small moments slideshow. All right. Um, a few things before I get it. You should have a sixth slide, so you should have 6 slides in your slideshow now. If you don't have this sixth slide, message me, and I will make sure it that gets fixed for you. Okay. The two of your other slides can help you out a lot today. Um, the main ones are going to be slide number 5. That should be the expansion, where we thought about all those little bitty details from the animal perspective this time. And the other one is the small moment paragraph you made from the human perspective. Uh, this is something we're looking to get towards. So I have a nice 4 to 5 sentences here. We just want to kind of recreate that exact same story, but from a different perspective. And that perspective is from the animal you've been studying with Miss Jenny. Okay? So if we go down to the animal small moment paragraph, we can see our goal for today, and that is I can turn my animal small moment details into a paragraph. All right? For most of us, this is going to be very similar to what we did when we did this from the human perspective. All right, so if we go back, let's look here. First thing, we're going to want to do an introduction. So tell me when, who, and what you're doing. We're going to introduce the topic. So let's go to our details. When, where, or who. So it was 2 weeks ago on a Saturday afternoon, and we went for a wiggle because we're worms, remember? We're not walking, we are wiggling. Near our home, and it was me and Jamie. So I want to try to add a couple of those details into one sentence. All right. I'm going to pause this. So that now you're just thinking about how you might want to word that. Like, how is that going to sound good? All right. You might want to go back to your small moment paragraph to see how you did it the first time from the human perspective. So I said 2 weekends ago on a Saturday afternoon, Jamie and I went for a walk by the ponds near our house. Okay. Now we want to add the details from our animal details though. So 2 weekends ago on a Saturday afternoon does not change at all. All right, so that didn't change at all. 2 weekends ago on a Saturday afternoon. I'm actually going to highlight this to remind myself I've already used that detail. We're done with that one. So it was me and Jamie. That one's not going to change either. So I'm going to add that to this slide as well. All right, as you can see, I added the who. That was Jamie and I. Now, what were we doing? Okay, let's think. So we were on a wiggle. It's like a walk, but for worms, remember? And we went to the ponds near where we lived. So I think that's the next detail we should add for our reader. So I'm going to add that, then I'll read it back and we'll see what that looks like, okay? All right, so this is what I came up with. I said, we wiggled out of our tunnels and then we slithered around the ponds outside, okay? So that's what I took from these details. We were on a wiggle. We were looking for animals near the pond and in the woods. So I had to think about how I would say that in this complete sentence. So that turned into Jamie and I wiggled out of our tunnels and slithered around the ponds outside. So we can take 2 more of these details and we're done with those. So we only have a few left here, friends. We're cruising right along. So let's go back to our paragraph page. Next thing, we need to start adding some of those details. I want you to tell me all of the details that your animal would be able to remember where, why, and any extra details about who, what, or when. Okay, so I'll go back to my details and think we started, I could tell people like where. I think telling people why might be a good place to start for my story. If we check on my first pair, that's what I did in my first detail that in my human perspective. So the two of us wanted to get out of the house because we were bored. As an animal, that looks like we needed to get out of the tunnels because we were bored. All right. So we're going to want to add that we needed to get out of the tunnels because we're bored. But thinking about it, being bored is not a reason maybe the worms would come out of their tunnel. So I might change that a little bit to make it more interesting. I know from my research with Miss Jenny that worms come out of their tunnels after it rains because they're flooded. So maybe that's what I'm going to tell my reader. And I'm going to add that in and then we'll see what that looks like. Okay, friends, so what I turned that into was the two of us needed to get out of our tunnel because the rain at night caused them to flood. So that's me taking a little bit about what I know about worms, a fact about worms, but putting it into a fiction story. So that's a real fact, but I put it in a fiction story, which is exactly what we're looking to do here today. So I changed the why just a little bit, but that's because I was able to make this story sound a little bit more real from the worm's perspective by saying they came out because the tunnels were flooded, not just because they were bored. It makes my story more interesting, adding those little bits and pieces that I've learned about worms. So let's go to my next detail. Let's see what we did up here in my human one. So we started our walk at our house and walked to Tiedemann's Pond, then walked through the woods to Stricker's Pond. So let's see how we changed that with our animal details. Started near our tunnel and wiggled to Tiedemann's Pond near our tunnel. Then we slithered through the woods over to Stricker's Pond. So I want to combine these two details into one sentence. All right. I'm going to highlight those because those are the ones I'm going to be using. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to turn that into one sentence and I'll show you what I come up with. All right, friends. Remember on my details page, I had said we started near our tunnel and we wiggled to Tiedemann's Pond near our tunnel. Then we slithered through the woods over to Stricker's Pond. But I wanted to make that into one complete sentence. I want to combine those two sentences. So that might sound something like this. We came out of our tunnels and wiggled to Tiedemann's Pond, then through the woods to Stricker's Pond. I took two sentences and I turned them into one complete sentence, okay? If we go back to our human paragraph, let's see what the next sentence I wrote was. Oh, it looks like I added another detail into this one. And it was, there was lots of people outside because it was a sunny day, all right? Now, from a worm's perspective, that might sound something like, we also saw a lot of strange people and animals because it was a nice day. So I'm going to add that right at the end of this sentence, and then we'll check what that looks like. All right, so I just added that sentence right in after the previous one. There were people and animals everywhere because it was a nice day. I don't think I really changed that sentence much at all. So look at that. We're already on our third detail. We're almost done. I'm going to highlight this one quick, folks, just so I know that I've already used that. Look at that. Two details left. So let's see what this one was. Our final detail in our small moment paragraph was, We were looking for animals on our walk and saw a muskrat, and we stopped and took a picture. When we changed that to the animal's perspective, we're thinking about this from like we're a worm, remember? We found a furry animal and we looked at it. All right? So we want to think of a way to say that in our paragraph here. Let's see what I can come. So friends, I turned that detail into looking around as we wiggled. We saw a furry creature by the pond and slowly crawled away because it was much bigger than us. So that started with, we found a furry animal and looked at it. When I was typing that in, I was thinking, well, they might not just stare at this big furry creature. It's probably pretty scary when you're just a little bitty worm and there's this big animal. So I'm thinking maybe they were a little bit worried or scared so that they crawled away. Okay. So I'm just thinking about this, trying to do my best to think about it like if I was that worm. And I would imagine seeing a huge animal might be a little scary. All right. We're down to our last detail, friends. And it's, how would your animal feel about this small moment, this day that they've had? I said it was really cool and we had fun. Okay. Now it could have been, but remember we saw that animal and I was thinking, I just had the thought that maybe that was a little bit scary. So I think I want to add that into my conclusion to say that we had fun, but we saw an animal and that was pretty scary. Because remember, this is from the perspective of the worm, and the worm might be scared in that situation. Your animal might not be. So I'm going to type that one in and we'll see what we have. All right, friends, so that becomes, we had a really fun day, but it was a bit scary to see that furry creature. All right. Once we add the how our animals were feeling, that is our last detail. And you guys should give yourselves a pat on the back because you're completely done with your small moment paragraphs. So on Friday, when we have our writer's celebration, you will be sharing the paragraphs you've completed from your slide number 3 and from slide number 6. I can't wait to read them. I can't wait to see the differences and similarities between both. They've been really good so far. Just like the rest of our writing, up in the right-hand corner here, I have the example that I've just done in front of you. That's going to be on your screen as well. And remember, if you click the zoom button, you can make it bigger so you can actually read the words in there. Just remember to go back to that zoom button and click fit so you can see all of your screen. And then click on your arrow. So good luck with your stories. I can't wait to read them. You guys have been doing an amazing job with this so far, so I'm sure you'll do just as good with this lesson today. Thanks, everyone.